Action.
I'll just say welcome to the Dave and Ed podcast. Today's guest is
Alexandre Rockwell.
And what does Alexandre Rockwell do, Ed?
He is a genius independent filmmaker.
Let's just say genius, okay? The independent filmmaker shit. That's not really happening.
There you go.
Well, Alex, welcome to the Dave and Ed podcast.
Thank you for
coming. Thanks, guys.
So let's go back to the beginning. You mentioned Boston before we got all serious and press report. So you were born in Boston back in the day and brought up.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's 100%.
Tell us about the early days. And I believe you have quite an artistic family as well. Is that?
Yeah, well, you know, my mother came from France. My grandfather was like a Russian, you know, animator guy, artist, and then my dad was a GI after the war, and they married and came. He brought her back, and he was, you know, from Boston, and
right.
And in the early days, like I remember. I mean, it was a great town. I grew up around Cambridge, Massachusetts, and that was kind of the time when Bob Dylan was recording there, and like, it was kind of a cooler place to be than it is, I think, now. It was like kind of an alternative, you know, beatniky kind of place a little bit, you know, and then and there was some movie theaters there, and I remember I was really shitty at school, so I used to leave, you know, cut school. And I would break into, you know, I'd sneak in the back door. I'd break in. I mean, I wasn't like, you know, so hold up, let me in your movie theater. Like, okay, a little kid with a gun, you know, let me in the movie theater. No, I was a badass little fucker when it came to going to see movies. No, I wasn't that badass. I used to sneak in the exit, okay, you know, the door in the back, and then I'd go sit and I would watch movies, and I kind of fall asleep and I'd wake up. And a lot of them were art movies. They were like, you know, the Seven Samurai or something like Kurosawa. But then, you know, there were also like, you know, like Fistful of Dollars, and, you know, I love those. Yeah. But I would watch these movies and kind of fall asleep and wake up in them and fall asleep and wake up in them. So I kind of started, you know, I still to this day, I can love a movie and I can fall asleep in it.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? I like The Irishman, for instance. You know, you remember, you know, did you guys?
Yes. Yeah.
I fell asleep in it, but I woke up and I was like, this is a masterpiece. Like,
I think everybody fell asleep in that, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, take a nap, you know. But no, but I don't always fall asleep in movies. But that's sort of my early years were taken up with having dyslexia, and then kind of like being a kind of a rough kid, like a little bit of a, you know, they sent me away to a boys' school because I was getting in trouble, but it was kind of a great time because there was a lot of like wildness in the streets. You know, it was kind of the time when, you know, like a lot of people were kind of like anti-war, and I got, you know, I used to go to riot, like me and my friends used to go to riot. Like, this is like a typical evening with me. Like, I'd be with a bunch of my friends looking in the changing room of a ballet, you know, like of a ballet school with, you know, girls getting dressed. And then all of a sudden we'd smell like, you know, smoke, and we go running out, and cops on horses would be, you know, throwing tear gas at students. Yeah, so it's kind of like the Wild West, but it was like, for a kid, it was really fun. I mean, it was exciting. It was like sex, adventure, violence, you know, just, you know, I don't think you could shoot scenes like that. I was thinking about making a movie someday about that time. And I was thinking, oh, you know, like little boys looking at girls changing in changing rooms. I guess that's not cool. That's not really cool nowadays.
Yeah, it's not the zeitgeist at the moment.
It's not the zeitgeist. Yeah.
Right at this moment, it's sort of not a Me Too thing. You know, it's like, it's like, you know, 4 little boys jerking off, you know, behind a fence watching girls change. This is not. In fact, your podcast is going right down the tube.
We don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't care.
We don't care.
We have issues with that whole thing anyway. Due process. Yes. Sorry.
Were you ever picked up by the cops?
Yeah, you guys don't look like. Oh yeah, I remember I was stealing a few times, but I was living with my mother at the time, and she had like a 1-bedroom apartment, and I hadn't been living with her all the time. I used to live with my dad, and then I moved in with her because there was more freedom. She was kind of a bohemian she had lots of different boyfriends from around the world, and she was, you know, we were like, it was kind of crazy times. But one of the times was I used to drink a lot, and I was only like 13, 14.
Right.
You know, I'm not condoning this. I don't think this is a good way of being, you know, jerking off behind, you know.
Hey, we're Irish. Yeah.
You know, yeah, exactly. Okay, you guys understand. So, so anyway, so what? Actually, why am I assuming you understand? I mean,
Racist.
hey, you're
Racist.
Irish. That's right. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. But anyway, you know, you guys get it. You get so fucking drunk when you're 14, you can't walk. You know? No, but no, like, so I remember I stole a bike. I used to steal bicycles, and I stole a bike. And, you know, like I wouldn't, you know, I wasn't a big bicycle thief. I mean, I'd steal a bike, I'd ride it around, I'd leave it, you know. But the thing is, I was backing it up down an alley, and I was so drunk, you know, I was going backwards, and I was hitting the walls. And eventually I saw a flashlight coming, and I was like, oh, I better hurry the fuck up. And my friends all ran up, but I kept trying to back up the bike. And sure enough, it was a cop. And, you know, back in those days, thank God I wasn't a black kid. You know, but back in those days, the cops would kind of go like, oh, fuck, man. And so he took me home. Actually, I got two good stories for you. This guy he took me home, and my mother was at the top of the stairs looking at me like this, like. And the cop was saying, you know, like, you know, so the cop, like, you know, like, so I was let off on that one. But then this is a good story. It doesn't involve the cops, but this just reminded me of this. At the same time, I had a kid who was a genius. His name was Jick Davis, and he used to hotwire cars. And we used to take him around and joyride him. And it was snowing really heavily that night. And I think I was about 14, so between 12 and 14. And Jick is like, we got long hair, we're like hippie kids. And he's like short circuiting the car. And he knew how to jump cars. And I'm underneath the dashboard. And we heard sounds coming around the car. And this kid was a genius. He goes like this, do what I do. And he took some dirt from the floor and went, and ripped his shirt and went, ah! Like that. He was like, what the fuck is he doing? And he's kind of went, oh, and all of a sudden his car door opens and it's a father. And he's leaning over and he goes, are you boys okay? And he had a son who was about our age next to him. I think I'd just been to the movie saying, what's going on? What's going on? And Jick said, are they gone? Are they gone? Are they gone? And the guy goes, what do you mean? Who's gone? What? And he said, they were chasing us. They were chasing us. We tried to do it. We were hiding in the car. Some kids were beating the shit out of us and they chased us. And he goes, oh, they're gone. And so he said, and so Nick just said, you know, we started to get out of the car, and the guy goes, do you kids want to ride home? And he drove us home. Fucking guy drove us home. So that was, those are my early days.
That's amazing.
An idea.
Wow. That was hilarious and brilliant and very informative. Can we back up a little bit and be a bit
Sure.
pedantic for our viewers, because we want you to explain to us and our viewers what a pinscreen is, which
Okay.
grandfather.
Yeah, let's get to the more, hold on, let me. Okay, no, my grandfather, my grandfather lived in Paris, and he was a Russian animator. Right. And he got a job once where he had to illustrate, I think it was like, he had to make he was really broke. He was poor, immigration from Russia. And he was a drawer, and he had to illustrate books. And he got a job to illustrate, like, I think it was like 350 illustrations within like I think it was like 2 or 3 months. And there's no way he felt he could do it. And one day he was shaving, and he noticed that like he had like a shadow on his beard. And he thought, wait a minute, if I make a board with pins in it, like beard hair, I could draw on it. I don't know where, how he, that's not exactly what you automatically do when you're shaving, but my grandfather, hey, maybe I could make a board. I don't know what the fuck. So he made this board. He put 1 million pins, if you can believe it. He got all these pins, and he somehow lined them up, and he kind of like made this pin screen, and he illustrated by drawing on it, and it casts shadows. Like if you look at newspaper really carefully, like a photograph, you'll see it's a bunch of dots, and some of the dots are bigger than others. So that when you put a shadow on a pin, if you push a pin all the way down, it's white. But if you push a pin up, it'll cast a shadow. So he drew on these pins, and if he wanted to make another drawing, what he would do is just erase part of it and then draw another thing. And it had an incredible, beautiful quality to it. It was like drawing on light. It was beautiful. Yeah. And so he made movies. He then made movies out of it because it was a perfect thing for animation, because you just change part of it. If you want to make a hand move, you draw it here on my face, and then you move the hand, then you move the hand, then you move the hand. Yeah. And you could just erase the hand,
That's such an American story, Alex.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the dream. Yeah,
Yeah, like I mean, like he innovated. Yeah, America.
Innovated.
Innovation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Awesome.
And he, exactly.
Okay.
Was he socialist leaning to get political?
Actually, it's weird because back in the day he was, and then his family, and then they went a little kooky. Good old Stalin. Wasn't exactly guy. I'm sure he knew how to party. He knew how to party in his own way, but in those times, if you were a socialist, that wasn't quite good enough.
Right.
So he people like intellectuals and people with podcasts would have been thrown in the gulags. Unless of course you're going like, well, now we are going to interview our supreme leader.
Yes.
He was such a wonderful man, and he's so spectacular. By the way, you'd have to take your hat off, and
Yes.
So basically, my grandfather was had to get out, but one of his brothers was shot, the other one was, so he was the only guy to get out from his family. It was a rough road out of Russia.
Okay. Do you still have relatives in Russia that you know of?
Actually, it's really weird you say that. My mother, when you're an immigrant, like from a rough, like that kind of place. I don't know how you guys ended up, falling into New York. Are you guys from overseas or?
Yeah, we're Irish.
We're both from Ireland, yeah.
Did you guys come over on a scholarship to go to school, or did you come over in a potato sack?
Potato sack. Potato sack.
I came on a sugar boat, yeah.
Sugar boat.
And I swam up the Harlem River.
Yeah, you swam up the Harlem River. Okay. So a lot of times when you leave a country for political reasons or, immigration for being poor or whatever, the bottom line is it's a rough road. How the fuck did I get off on that one?
Oh, well, we're talking about your granddad.
Relatives in Russia.
Relatives in Russia.
Relatives. Oh, do I have any left over? Right.
Yes.
So what happens is you often fantasize like, do you have any relatives left? And my grandfather always thought that maybe one of his relatives, survived. And so my mother thought that she found a relative in Brighton Beach. And it was a crazy story because right before she died, her name was Svetlana Ludmila Alexeyev, right? And before she died, she thought she found this lost genius from Russia, like artist, poet who kind of, got out of there. And so she invited them to come up to visit where she lived. It's where I am now, actually. And it was so sad and funny at the same time because we show up, and of course I'm her son. I don't want to meet these fucking people. I have no idea who they are, So I go up and she's sitting out there with them, and these guys fall out of a van. They're from Brighton Beach, and this guy's got like tattoos all over him and a cigarette, and he looks like this. Hold on, I gotta let my dog out the door. Hold on.
Take your dog out.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Alexandre Rockwell, folks, just letting his dog out.
Just let his dog out, in Massachusetts.
Check it out. My dogs.
I love live letting the dog out.
Who let the dog out?
Yes.
Hold on, I gotta go. So the guy goes. So the guy comes out. He goes, dogs like this, and he's got like the thing like this, and he's got his daughter comes out of the van, and she's got like she looks like a Jennifer Lopez Russian Brighton Beach chick. She's got juicy short pants, and then and he comes out. He goes, "Hey, how are you? You're big time filmmaker. I hear you." He goes, "I hear you're married to Jennifer Beals. Wow. How did you fuck that one up?" He's talking like this to me, right? And it's chain smoking, like missing half his teeth. And he's not our relative even. It's her. It's his wife who's the one we're supposed to be related to.
Right.
And then he goes, "Hey, Svetlana," my wife, my mother. My mother's dying. I can see she's crumbling, right? And she's just going, "Fuck." But she's trying to be like polite, and she's got all these special Russian things, and for them, and he's eating and they're eating, and he goes, "Hey, Svetlana, I'm painter too," and everyone, we wait. "I'm painter, yeah, I paint anything. I paint your fucking house for you. $400. I'm not kidding you. So anyway, that was our Russian relative. So when you ask the question, do I have any Russian relatives? Yeah.
Nice. Great.
You might want to get them on your podcast.
Probably. Very entertaining. So, you came from an artistic background, obviously, but did you ever feel like, because often we see people who have artistic backgrounds decide, "Oh, fuck this, I'm going to be quote unquote normal." did you ever have a desire to like just be a normal person in whatever that means? Like work a normal day job? Did you work normal day jobs for?
I mean, yeah, I did it all the time. Like I did all kinds of shitty jobs, but I mean, Brandon and I did a few jobs together. You met.
Oh yeah, construction stuff.
Yeah, construction stuff. But and I drove a taxi. I did a lot of different things when I first arrived in New York.
Oh wow, you must have interesting stories about driving a taxi.
Oh fuck, yeah, crazy ones.
Please.
When I first arrived, it was rough city. I remember I drove for a yellow cab, but this was a long time ago. I don't want to even tell you how long. Fuck, I don't even remember how long. Like 79 or something.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
but anyway, like it was rough times, and kind of like taxi driver times. You had the meter, and you had the stinky, smelly vomit. Semen, blood coated cabs.
Yeah.
And and
that's a
horror.
Yeah.
It's like you sink into the seat, man, and your ass gets hot. And there's no air conditioning. But I was driving on the BQE, and all of a sudden, the guy pulls a Rastafarian guy. He pulls a gun on my head and tells me to get out on the BQE. BQE, man, and it took my money, took my everything. And I'm just standing on the BQE, and I had to walk along. I got off the down ramp. I go and I knock on doors because I don't know what the fuck to do. I got no money to do anything. So someone lets me in. I call the cab company. Someone finally let me in. And they said I remember the cab company thought I was bullshitting. They thought that I sold the cab or some shit. But anyway, that was my cab driving story. I quit.
Wow.
Did you enjoy New York City back in those days? Was it a fun?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York was fucking great. I mean, all you needed was a few bucks. Like, I did short order chef. I worked for an artist as an artist assistant, which was my best job. I liked that one the best. But my rent was, my share of the rent was $125 a month.
Right.
And you would go to the Mud Club. You'd hang out. That was fucking great times. And it was rough. But it was like when the Lower East Side, like in the Lower East Side, I'll never forget, like, we used to go get weed and we would go into little storefronts and there'd be holes in the wall and you put your $5 in a hole and out would come like a nickel bag, weed. But it was a great time to be in New York. But it was also, you romanticize it in a way. But I think a lot of artists could afford to be in New York in those days.
Right. Those were the days.
Yeah, those were the days. It's hard, man. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
So, like, were you ever interested in being an actor before you started directing, or did you?
Yeah, I did. I studied acting for a long time. I went to Meisner. I studied Meisner at Bill Esper Studio, and I met Sam Rockwell there, actually, of all people. He's not a relative, but I met him there.
Yes.
And then I also studied with a guy called Bob Modica, which John Turturro studied with, who knows Brandon and stuff. And I used to love acting, but I think that if you don't make it as an actor fast, I don't know, you guys actors?
Yeah, we are. We are.
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, fucking, I love acting. It's beautiful stuff. But if you don't make it with the fucking acting, you got to go to these auditions. Do you guys go to these auditions? You go to auditions? Yeah.
Sometimes,
I mean, it's so humiliating. But
Yeah.
I guess everything, the thing that's weird about being an artist, and which actually is so great about acting and anything, it's so humiliating when you do what you love to do, right?
Yeah.
You go to these fucking auditions and you sweat in the bathroom and you figure out how you're going to do it. And then you study, and there's some sexy chick who's reading opposite you, who's supposed to be 65. She's a 65-year-old Italian cop. You know what I mean? And you're sitting there reading lines and you feel like inside you go, I feel like an asshole. This is so stupid. Do you want me to do it a different way? You guys, I'm fucking humiliated, right? But I'm so humiliated as a director making movies too.
Right.
But the thing is that I guess I'm willing to be humiliated as the filmmaker for me, because but I guess what I'm trying to say is you find out very quickly what you love to do.
Right.
Because if you're going to suffer this fucking shit to do that, then you better fucking like it. They're better, you better get off on it. And I don't think I loved acting. I mean, I love acting and I love actors, but I don't think I was willing. I wasn't willing to do that. I'm willing to do whatever I got to do to make a film.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll embarrass myself. Believe me, I embarrass myself. I eat dinner with people like you don't even want to fucking, go near. Like, so Harry, how's, whatever the fuck you say. And by the way, none of those people ever give you one fucking dime. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You know, like,
Wow.
you know, Roseanne Barr had a great thing. She said that, you know, I don't love her, but she said one thing. She said, the difference between, she said, like, I don't mind giving somebody, all right, I'll give someone a blowjob to get a job, but I won't brown nose them. She said, because when you brown nose, you never can stop. There's no end. You stick your nose in someone's ass and it's just like forever. But a blowjob,
Yeah.
it's like, so it's kind of like, you know, what the fuck, like, you know, like, so like, you know, but the bottom line is like, so I never found anything ever really worked when I tried to do that, you know, ass kissing, brown nosing stuff. It just never pays off. But I spent a lot of hours, a lot of days doing it.
Right. So how did you get how did you get your money for your first feature, Lens?
Well, it depends. Like, you know, every movie's different. Like, you know, for me, you know, everyone's different. But for me, every single movie has been like climbing another mountain. Like, and so much of my earlier films was spent climbing mountains for money. And
Right.
now that I'm older, I'm like, I just don't want to. You know, like if I'm gonna climb a mountain, I want to climb a mountain for what the thing I'm trying to do, not for money.
Right.
So like, but so the very beginning, I made a film. My very first film. I kind of self-financed it
Right.
with friends, and it was about like $12,000. So that was called
Okay.
Lens.
Yeah, Lens. Yeah.
And I don't know how I did it. I think I had a little money saved. I think my family, instead of going to school, I think my grandfather or somebody gave me like, you know, $7,000. And in those days you could pay to go to college for 1 year or some shit like that. So, but I didn't go to college. So I saved the money. I used the money on that. So I got a little money there, and then I got a little money elsewhere. And I pulled together that first movie, Lens. And then that one, you know, helped me get German television, gave me some money to make Hero, a movie I made called Hero, from German television. And then, you know, like after a while, I kind of got into the, after In the Soup was through Jim Jarmusch, his producer,
Right.
and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, you know, like that was a rough one. But once I did In the Soup, it won Sundance. And then I got more traditional money to make a movie. Not
Right.
a lot, but, you know, more traditional.
Right.
You know, but that wasn't very great either. So,
Right. Have you ever done the director for hire thing, like doing a piece of crap for you?
I wish that, you know, like I kind of, you know, like to be really honest with you, okay, like I you know, I was allergic, you know, like I probably would have done a piece of crap, but the problem is I'm like a fool. I'll fuck up. Like I'll drink too much and I'll vomit at the meeting. You know, I'll do something self-destructive
Right.
because I just can't seem to like, I think I'm afraid of success on that level anyway. Like I
Okay.
mean, look, if I made a movie that made a lot of money, then it would be great.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but like, you know, Paul Thomas Anderson or, you know, one of these guys, like, okay, fucking great. Like, you know, you leave me alone and great. But for me just to take a job to make money, now the weird part though is that at one point I was offered to do a Sopranos really early,
Mhm.
and I kind of like didn't do it. And I wished I'd done that. Like honestly, like if I could change something, I probably would have done a television show.
Okay.
And like right now, I would love to do like I'd love to do an interesting television show with friends, like, you know, and hire guys like you know, like make a New York City,
Yeah.
you know, like the old school, like, you know, like there's so many talented people in New York that
Yeah.
aren't famous that I just feel like if if television could get more rough and raw and like what independent films were in the 90s.
Back in the day.
Or like Casavetti, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like make, you know, like not make slick shit, but like, you know, really develop some cool, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of talented writers, directors, and people. I mean, I know so many myself. Like, I mean, I would count myself among them. That like I could do if I got together with a team. You know, like it would be great. But you know, the problem is that like anything, like the money people have figured out. They figured out how to corner it.
Right.
But maybe YouTube or something. But I mean, I would have loved to have done television at one point, but then once you skip that window, once that door opens and you don't go into it, then it's hard to get into.
Yeah. Did you pass up that episode of The Sopranos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I passed it up.
Why?
I was nervous. It was very early. Well, because it was so early, you know, like, and I was so freaked out by executive producers and writers and I think that what happened is, like, you know, the money was pretty good. It wasn't, you know, amazing. It was like 12 grand for, like, you know, 3 weeks work. I mean, that's good. It's great. But then the other thing was that I think I was nervous that it wasn't going to be mine. It was going to be somebody else. And by the way, I didn't know what Sopranos was going to be. You know, like, I love James Gandolfini, man. The fucking James Gandolfini, man. I would have done it just to sit next to him and hang out, you know?
Right.
Like, no, I mean, you know, and I could have had Steve Buscemi and, you know, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know what it was. But then when I wanted to do it, it was no longer possible. So be careful when you say no, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, but, you know, like, I don't know. I think television is pretty cool. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in television, but I still think it could get a little bit more inventive, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I remember watching IFC back in the day, you know, the independent film channel back in the early 2000s, and it was just so much cooler. You know, they had real independent film on it. Now, now they have fucking reality shows on that channel.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's very hard to access independent content.
You know what's weird is, like, I feel, I mean, look, everything goes around. I mean, the good news is they're all fucking cycles always, right? And actually this time, this Corona stuff, I mean, one of the good things that could come from it is this rat race to make money and produce and all this shit. You know, it's kind of fucking up on itself. Like, you know, so, like, maybe it'll be, but you know, it's weird. I can tell you from the time when I came to New York, yeah, money was around, but it wasn't about money. Like, even fame, like, you know, people wanted to be famous before they wanted to have money even. Like, they, you know, like all this kind of Richard Hell and, you know, Basquiat and all these guys, they wanted to be famous, like Andy Warhol kind of thing. But they didn't want, like, necessarily money. Money only kind of helped them be sexy and go to the nightclubs. But what's weird is it was a raw kind of thing that was going on, like an irreverent kind of, like, and it even found its way in the mainstream. David Bowie and all these guys, they took it and they went in the mainstream with it a little bit, right? But now everything's so fucking corporate. You know, you think about it, like, all the music, everything could all be in Las Vegas. It's like, it's all Las fucking Vegas. It's like everything is so, you know, like, sometimes you just sit and you click through the channels on TV. There's 5 million channels and they're all shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's all shit, more shit. Shit. And you know, it's funny, actually, I just watched yesterday, I turned on something. Did you ever see the original Shameless, the one that was made in England?
The English one, yeah. Yes.
It's pretty good. See, that's kind of what we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, I just watched, like, Happen. He's like, you know, looking for a needle. And I'm not saying it's great, but I'm looking at it, I'm going, oh, no, see, this is the kind of shit that should be happening.
Yeah. It's gritty.
It's a bit more authentic.
Like, you know, like on the, you know, and it doesn't have to be low, like, shit. It's just, it's what it is, you know, I really, artistically, for me, like, because of John Cassavetes and you know, like, you know, he was a big influence on me.
Sure.
Artistically, it's not just the grit. It's like the rawness of something has a vitality in it, a life in it. An authenticity. It doesn't feel fake. It feels, you know, that you can see the blood, you can see the smell, the sweat, and, you know, there's something about it that there's a raw authenticity to it that is very human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's something that I really respond to in it, and I think we're just getting more and more, like, cyborgy, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, don't you think that's across the board? I mean, back in the day, if you walked into a bar, it might smell like puke and piss and beer. Now it smells like bleach.
Yeah, it's across the board. And it's very, you know, it's all like, you know, everything's oat milk and you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything's like, and by the way, I fucking drink oatmeal.
I love it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I fucking drink this shit. But anyway, and I forget. Let's not talk about the rest of the shit I do. But the thing is that but you know, like, yeah, it is across the board. But I do think that people have a hunger for what's authentic.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you know, we may not even always be aware of it, but when we feel it, we know it. Like, and I think, you know, of course you guys do. I can tell just by looking at you, you know.
Yeah.
And but we all do. But I think even the average fucker, you know, like I made a movie a year and a half ago that just came out. Unfortunately, got kind of fucked up by this Corona thing. It's called Sweet Thing, and I shot it up here in New Bedford, you know, in a place where no one's ever heard of movies. And I did it with half non-actors, and you know, pulled people off the street. And Will Patton, who is in it, who's also a friend of Brandon's, and it's really raw, and I love the movie. It's black and white. I shot it in 16 millimeter, and I gotta say, one thing I'm very proud of about the movie is I show it to people who don't see movies at all, like a fucking farmer. I don't give a fuck whoever the fuck, and they respond to it. There's something like it's not some weird art movie. And of course, we'd call it an art movie now, right? Because it's black and white.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, some movie star. But no, the average schmuck, the average person responds to it. They see something in it because it's an honest movie. It's about a dysfunctional family, about an alcoholic father with a daughter who dreams of Billie Holiday, and she takes her brother and they run away, and they break into a rich person's house, and they have they fuck around, they have a party, they get eat, and it's a wild, adventure, and people dig it. It went to Berlin, it won a prize in Berlin, but that's a film festival, but I think the average, the thing that pisses me off, because I come back, I show the film, some guy at Amazon sees it and, sold out in Berlin, big response, won a prize. Some guy from Amazon saw it there and he's all excited about it. He showed it to his boss. He comes back to America. He said he showed it to his boss. We're waiting 3 weeks. Amazon, whatever, but it would have maybe paid for me to get the money back, that I lost making it. Thank God I had an insurance claim. That's how I paid for it, But so I waited, and the guy writes me this long letter because he kind of knows of me a little bit, explaining how they can't buy movies like this, art movies, and they can't do but how they wish they could do movies because they love me and the movies, but he just can't do it. I know he didn't even fucking see the movie. Right. I looked at the Vimeo click. You can see who saw something.
Yeah. No
one watched the movie when he said he watched it. Wow. And it pissed me off because I'm like, did you see the fucking movie? I mean, I didn't even, say this to him because I don't, whatever. But it's like, it's a movie that your average person would like.
Right.
Really. I mean, put it on Amazon. Or put it on some thing because people would watch it and go, hey, honey, I haven't seen a black and white movie. What the fuck is this shit? Oh, look at that one. They would get it. It's funny. It's got good music. It's got Van Morrison gave me a song. It's a great song. It's good stuff. You guys are Irish, right?
Yeah.
And Van Morrison, the cranky motherfucker in Belfast. Yeah. He's got a reputation as being the cranky old man, right?
Yeah.
He's a miserable bastard.
Yeah. He's a bastard, right?
What a fucking genius.
But you want to know something? Don't ever I fucking kick your ass if you say anything bad about him. You know why? This guy, everyone told me, you'll never get it. You'll never get. I have a bootleg song called Sweet Thing. He did a bootleg version of it.
A bootleg version of Sweet Thing. Wow.
Oh, fuck. Look it up on YouTube. It's the most beautiful fucking version.
Great song. All right, cool.
Fuck, it's good. It's at a place called Lionsgate in California. They recorded it. Okay. And nobody owns the master right. But of course, I have to get Van Morrison to agree. So I'm digging. I'm trying to get it because then I got no money. I mean, I can give him $500. And everyone's saying, I'm calling, Peter Dinklage, who spent time in Ireland, saying, "Do you have any?" Oh no, you'll never get it from him, man. He's known as the cranky bastard or something. and I'm like, oh shit, But I'm thinking, I'm trying. I write a guy who books him in Switzerland, and I keep getting no. And all these people in LA are saying, "Oh, Endeavor, who's his agent, now I forget it. Van never." So but then I finally find it, and I find it this number in England, and I call it, and it's this young lady answers. It must be his private secretary. I don't know how I got the fucking number. She's very nice, and she's like, "Well, let me see what I can do if I can help you." Send me the clip. So I sent her the clip with the piece of music. It's a great scene. You know who Will Patton is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Will is a Santa Claus, and he's drunk, and he's lying on the ground, and his kids are throwing rocks at him, and his two kids, who are my kids, are trying to help him get up and get him home. It's this beautiful scene. It's beautiful, fucking heartbreaking. And I sent him the scene, and I get a letter, like 3 weeks later, I get a fucking email. Van has agreed. You can have it. And then it said how much?
Wow.
How much? And then it said how much? And then, oh, but this was months, man. And then how much? And then the lawyers, charge $500 or something for paperwork. So man, so you might be a cranky bastard, but
wow, that's
you did
awesome.
me right.
Yeah, nice one.
Wow. So like, that's amazing. What a great story. You wanna go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about like with your films, because like we were talking about raw vitality and all that jazz. Do you allow a lot of room for improvisation when you're making a film, or is it?
Yeah, it's weird. Like when you guys are actors, so like I think the best kind of improvisation is structured improvisation.
Right.
Like when you give like an actor, like I don't care if people change lines. I mean, sometimes I do. Like like sometimes a line, like sometimes there can kind of be like a poetic rhythm to lines, which is quite beautiful, and that's important to keep. But when you give objectives to actors and you give them actions to do, like to take a guy and throw him out the door, or Will Patton had to pull my daughter into a bathroom and cut her hair, like you give very strong directions, obstacles for actors to do, so they can almost forget they're acting.
Yeah.
Like that's so I think you improvise, but you improvise within a structure that's very defined, so that, and I don't like to rehearse a lot, because I think that rehearsal, as long as the situation is very defined, then I don't know if you want to rehearse it, because if you rehearse it too much, you can kill it. You can kill the moment. Now, I'm not talking about two guys sitting across from each other talking at a table.
Sure.
Like that's different. Like that's a different situation. But when you have doable action, like when people actually have something at stake and they're trying to break into a fucking, basement window that's too small for one of them to get through, it's a very doable thing. And you can forget you're acting. So I like to create situations like that for actors.
Right.
So
cool.
yeah, it's not, I wouldn't call it improvisation though, because I don't really like it. For me, I don't really like it when actors, write on the moment, because I think anytime you say what you're really thinking is probably not a good idea. Like it's better that when you're breaking into a basement to steal like a birthday cake, it's better you talk about like, one of the guy's wives' dresses, like, I like her when she's wearing a red dress. You like my wife in a red dress? What about it? Do you like, you like my wife? Why do you like my wife? No, I didn't say I like your wife. I like your wife in a red dress, but they're breaking into something. So the problem with actors improvising is sometimes they'll say, "Oh, it's really hard to get in this window." You know what I mean? And the other guy will say, "Wow, how can I help you?"
No action.
You know what I mean? And then he goes, "I'm nervous." An actor acting will go, "I'm nervous." What are you nervous about? I'm nervous. I really want to say, because I'm acting in a fucking movie. That's why I'm fucking nervous. You know what I mean? So it's good to give them something else to talk about.
Yeah,
that's.
Yeah. So in 1995, you were one of the 4 directors in 4 rooms.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience, being one of 4 directors and.
Yeah, I mean that was in a way those were the good times. That's when I could pay my rent. No, but no, that was I was actually really close to Quentin for a while, like and he's a big kid, like he's a like in those days he was like a big baby Huey, like like amazingly, like I don't care what anyone says about Quentin, I got as many problems with him as anyone. But the thing is, he was the most enthusiastic fucking guy in the world. Like you'd stay up all night watching weird movies with him and in his underwear, and he'd be eating popcorn and, we'd be smoking joints and, just incredibly excited and like, brilliant mind, So we were really good friends. And then we came up with this movie idea. And then with Allison Anders and then, Robert Rodriguez, who was more, Quentin's friend. But we kind of wanted to do it like a rock and roll, like, like a collaboration, like rock and roll guys do or something. And, that was the idea. And it was a loose idea, just a hotel at night and, and one guy in these different rooms. And then, you know, Miramax got involved in Harvey Weinstein, and they kind of like pushed certain cast on us,
Oh, right.
and they wanted me to redo my movie. I had a really good ending in my movie that he made me cut out, and so I was pissed off about that. So it was kind of an unpleasant experience dealing with Harvey Weinstein,
Right.
but I like the idea of it. It got roasted, you know, it got beat the shit kicked out of it. But I loved, you know, I was very close to Quentin at the time and Allison, and it was kind of fun to make a movie with other directors.
Yeah.
You know, we really liked each other. We had fun. But too many people looked at, I think people scrutinized it too much.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fun movie. It's not supposed to be like some masterpiece. It was like,
Sure.
it was a lark, you know, it was like, hey, let's try this, you know. But Harvey kind of fucked it up. Like the end of my movie was much better. You know, he wanted to make it cute, you know, like short and cute. And so he kind of bullied me. You know, the guy was a famous bully, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess at that point.
Okay, look, he fucked me twice, okay?
We got the exclusive.
The first time it was a mutual, the first time it was okay. The second time I didn't want it.
Nice.
Oh God, we shouldn't laugh, but you guys are in trouble for laughing at that.
We're in trouble for laughing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Wow, they're going to comment us now. It's great.
You guys are fucked.
Yes, bring it on. Yeah.
But I guess at that point, Quentin had already, Tarantino, he'd already directed Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, right? At that point, so he was already kind of a star, right?
He was sort of the star. Yeah, and he was going off to make the next one.
Jackie Brown or something.
Jackie Brown, right?
Yeah.
Was it Jackie Brown? What's the next one up?
Oh, was it From Dusk Till Dawn? Was it?
Yeah, it was. I think
Maybe.
What the vampires or
but
something?
he was definitely cranking it up, and and what happened was he actually wanted to bail on making the film like 2 weeks beforehand because I think he kind of sensed that he was going to be the train we attached ourselves to, but I convinced him not to. But I gotta say, I think for me it was worse than anybody to make that movie because I was the weakest link in terms of security, in terms of being able to have a career with money or something. So excuse me, a lot of the critics attacked me. Critics are such assholes. I mean,
right.
I'm sorry if any critics are listening to this, but you guys are such assholes. You always pick the weakest link to kick the shit out of.
Right.
Boom. And everyone was sucking up to Quentin at the time. And so they really, I just remember them picking on that movie so hard. And it really wasn't worth picking on. It was a lark and it was fun to make, but it shouldn't have been something that was scrutinized. And so it made it really hard for me to make another movie after that. Okay. It was people were looking at me I took a lot of the heat for it, but Quentin was off, doing his thing. Right. And Allison was a little untouchable because, she was Alice, a chick. And then Robert Rodriguez was also off into Hollywood. Yeah. So it was kind of maybe a bad idea for me to make it just in terms, but I'll tell you the good news about that one is I got the same deal as Quentin in terms of the back end. So there was some kind of gross points. So every year I get I think about $1,000.
Nice.
Every but I don't know when it's going to come, but every year there's some little check that comes from Disney. And it's $1,000.
Disney. I thought Harvey wrote the check. No, with Harvey.
Yeah. No. It was Disney gives me a check, so I'm okay.
That's great.
I'll take it.
Oh, yeah. What's Quentin like to direct? Because you've directed him, right, as an actor.
Yeah, Quentin. Yeah, he was in something of mine, and Quentin was.
Somebody to love.
Yeah, Quentin's a lot of fun. Quentin. I think the only thing about Quentin is I think he's got as an actor, he's got a little bit of a different idea in his head. That he sees, he admires leading men a lot. He loves Elvis Presley. He loves, he's kind of a pop. He admires stars like John Travolta, Tom Cruise, people like this. He said there was a little kid, he's got the enthusiasm. One of the beautiful things of Quentin and the horror show of Quentin is he's like an 8-year-old, he admires things and he's passionate about them, but then he's also kind of like a little kid about it. So he sees himself like as like, he said, Alex, I'm going to get in really good shape, but I'm going to play like a Native American guy, and I'm going to wear one of those little like, like little things, little leather flaps in the back and the front. And I'm going to run, and I'm going to be like, and I'm like, like, no, Quentin, that's not going to happen, man. You're not fucking Daniel Day-Lewis, like, your God gave you your body. It's beautiful, but you're not, you know what I mean? It's like, you're not the fucking guy running with the little flaps, but that's, I hope he doesn't hear this. Hey, Quentin, you hear this? Like, I love you anyway, I had a little falling out with him for a while, but, about 10 years of like ill will on my part toward him. But, I think he just is what he is. You got to kind of let it go. You got to, I have to say that last movie he made, for me, I fucking loved it. Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh yeah.
I really loved it. Like, like the other ones, but that one, and the reason why I loved it, partly, I liked the movie. I just like watching it. But one of the reasons why I love that movie is because it was a movie told with heart. And, you may not agree with it. You may not fucking agree with his stuff. But, man, I know Quentin, and he believed every single thing in that movie. Like, he loves actors who aren't famous. Like, he loves people who are, like, I mean, so like that Leonardo DiCaprio guy, when he's reading his lines to the little girl. Yeah. And did you guys see it?
Yeah, we loved it. Yeah.
And when she comes up to him and she says to him, "You're the best. You did. You're a really good actor." And he goes, and he cries. I mean, come on, it's so fucking beautiful. It's so. You guys are actors. It's so beautiful to see that like that. You're so vulnerable, man. And, like it's like, I thought it was told with a lot of heart.
Absolutely.
I really like that.
Do you have a question?
No.
I'm just curious about, like, because you teach, right? You teach at NYU. Just curious how that is and what your process is. And
yeah, it's really interesting for me. Like, I'm kind of come full circle with it, because like I've been there now. I don't know how many fucking years. I've been there like 8 years, I think.
Right.
When I first got there, I loved it in a way because I was able to kind of teach the aspects of film I love. Just when I was talking to you guys about giving actors doable things, so that when you write for cinema, I think you have to write for people to do things. Like you have to give actors, you have to give them things to do. And you also, I love to do that with filmmakers, because so many times filmmakers, they don't know how to direct actors. Like they'll look at a video screen like this. Right. When the actor's right there, and it's like, like I always tell them, I said, like, how does it feel if someone's talking to you and they're talking to you like that? Yeah. Like just, all an actor has, they don't have a stage, they don't have an audience, they have you. Right. And so like Cassavetes taught me, he said, I always, I remember asking Cassavetes, I said, how do you work with actors? How do you get such great performances out of actors? And Cassavetes said, I'm just a good audience.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. And that's really what a great director does, is a good director, they just watch. Mm-hmm. They laugh when it's funny. When it's not good working, that, you don't make someone feel like shit, but you watch it. And an actor, when you're actors, you can feel when it's when someone's given that to you.
Yes.
And if someone's just staring, and that first thing when they say cut is they go over to the camera guy and go, was it in focus? You know that they're not like, wait a minute, hold on. How was I? Like, what did you think? Yeah. And like, so to me, it's like, go right, when you say cut, you go to the actor. Like, even if, go right to the actor, don't waste your time with the camera. Like, and if the camera says it was out of focus, say, fuck you, like get it, So the thing is that, you don't have to be that mean, but,
yeah. Well,
but, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I love teaching, but the thing is, the only thing about teaching is that, the thing I find disappointing sometimes in teaching is a lot of the students I teach are not people, even at NYU, are not people who are really serious. Like they're not really like, like they're like some people who kind of think they want to be directors or they want to be and to me, like the thing about directing a movie, or, actually almost any art, if you take it seriously, is it's a bitch. It's not easy, man. It's like, you can't teach someone willpower. You can't teach them drive. Yes. You can't teach them that. Like, it's like, like you gotta get slapped in the face and, And, you know, there are long nights when you feel like you're shit, you know, and you feel like you're not worth anything and no one appreciates it.
Right.
But somehow you got to find the way to get up again and go, you know, and you can't teach that.
That's really interesting what you're saying though. But with that in mind, have you ever had moments with students where you've like, come on, like where you've tried to, how can I put it, drag it out of them quite forcefully?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I get you know, I have great moments of them discovering something in, you know, generally speaking, if somebody, you know, it's probably the same thing in acting, is like when somebody suddenly gets it, bit by the bug, like, you know, in the craft of it. It's suddenly, let's say you're on stage or something and you forget you're acting for 5 minutes and then you come out of it. It's like, it's such an amazing feeling. Right. Like once you have that taste, then you develop a drive. Because then it's like, fuck, I want to get that again, and that's fucking great. I'm going to do whatever I can to get that feeling again. So if I can teach them a craft that makes them all of a sudden go, oh shit, I really got that emotion across in my work. Like I see how that happened. And a lot of times that's by letting go of their ego. Like, you know, they come, you know, they have to kind of like, they have to make mistakes and they have to kind of like let go of their ego and try some things. And then it's great when they all of a sudden get that, because that can open up a door. Because then all of a sudden they go, oh shit, I want to do this. Right. And that can happen. But I've had moments where I've had people in my class a few times, and you know, I don't know how long I'll last because at NYU, because I've kicked students out of class, you know. Like I said, I went with one guy.
Like literally, you kick him,
drag him out.
Yeah, he's just like seriously, like, you know, so you know, he's kind of like, well, so what was, you know, like that kind of thing, like,
oh God.
He's like, hey, yeah, like, oh, that's sort of obvious, you know, that kind of thing. And I go, oh, it's really obvious. I said, oh yeah, but what, you know, so okay, you motherfucker. He's like, okay, it's really obvious. Why is it obvious? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think you have to be so emotional when you make a film. And I said, well, I don't know about you, but like we're working in an emotional field. So if you don't deal with emotions, you know, like or something, and then he kind of got all weird. I said, you know, why don't you get the fuck out of my class? I just lost myself. Get the fuck out of my fucking class. I said, now are you fucking feeling something? Get the fuck out of here. You're wasting my fucking time and you're wasting everyone else's fucking time.
And you would have paid for it as well.
I just lost it, you know. I fucking lost it. So I've done that before. But I got to be careful. I got to be careful because, like, these universities, man, they're all about, you know, kissing students' ass.
I totally understand. I relate to that, Alex, because I teach a clown class as well, and sometimes I have to be tough. So
it's hard. It's hard. But you know, the thing is, like, when they're paying, like at a university, like, see, I almost would rather teach like a workshop type class because you know, they pay and then you could be tough and whatever. But with the university, they're always fucking scared that they're going to get sued or that, you know, because these students pay a shitload of money. You know, their parents do anyway. Yeah. And so, like, it's more like,
these days,
someone said they're like consumers. They're, you know, and they're rating you, like, you know.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, sure.
It's like Yelp.
I want to talk about you directing your daughter in a couple of films. But first, I would like to ask you, who do you think would win in a fight, you or Peter Dinklage?
He'd bite my fucking balls. Anybody who can bite your balls, will beat you in a fight. Okay. Wow. That'll end a fight real fast. You know.
He sounds like a vicious guy.
Yeah, vicious fuck. No, I mean, you know, I don't know, man. You're making me want to cry now. I don't want to fight Peter. And I love my balls.
Right.
Yeah. So what's it like directing your daughter? Like, how does that work?
She would beat me in a fight. That's for fucking sure. She just kicked my ass by looking at me. So it's great. You know, like, she's really good. Like, you know, like, I think it's because she grew up around me watching movies, and I'm very tough on performances. Like, you know, like, I'm not, you know, tough on actors, but I hate Hollywood performances. Okay. You know, like, I hate the phoniness of shit. Like, you know, and actors hate it too. Like, it's like, you know, when an actor's being asked to do something that they don't believe, and, you know, like, they do some shit, and, you know, you guys are actors. So many times I'm sure to get a gig, you're going to have to do some shit you don't believe. But, you know, when I watch a movie, so I was always watching movies and I was always kind of like talking about it. So I think she understood very early on that in film, you don't act. Like the best thing in film is if you don't feel it, don't do anything. Just be like Buster Keaton.
Right.
Just be there. And if you have charisma, which she has, it'll work. Like if you're non, if you have no, like if you're just somebody that, has no energy, then maybe it'll be a bad idea. But she's got charisma. So she understands that. So she never would do anything false. That was huge. So that then, but when I worked with her, sometimes it got a little tough because I push. Once I'm making a movie, you learn really quick that like you're a father, but you're also a filmmaker. And unfortunately, when you're making a movie, like I'm a father, 24, hours out of the day, but when I'm shooting, I'm a filmmaker. So that rides over being a father. So sometimes I would ask her to do really tough stuff. And I would have to, she'd be sick or something. I said, no, well, you can't leave. You got to do it. You got to do it. And so we got some friction there. But basically, and in the second film, she was great. She really learned it. And she actually was working with Will Patton. And I think Will Patton is the person who taught her the most, like more than me. Like he was somebody who was so professional and he really loved working with her that I think she took her cues from him. And she knows how to protect her space. Like Will's so good at being a collaborator, but at the same time, protecting his space as an actor. Like, he's not gonna do anything he doesn't believe or he doesn't feel. And yet he trusts me, but at the same time, he's not gonna, it's like when you're on the set with him, everyone around the cameraman, all these people, they all respect that he has, that it's about what's going on in front of the camera, not what's going on behind it.
Right.
So he made that energy happen. So I think that really helped Lana, my daughter. So it was easy to work with her there. So she learned how to do that. So I didn't have to protect her. I didn't have to come in and say anything. He helped do that.
Very good. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's great.
I know we kind of touched on this earlier. We were joking about it, but like all joking aside for a second, or maybe not, but we'll see. Do you think?
You know what that says? All that makes me want to do is joke.
Good. Yes, please do. Yeah. That was me leading you.
I'm joking. I'm joking. No. What are you gonna ask?
This is where we get our sound bites.
This is where we get our like. Do you think like the PC culture is destroying artists, or destroying art more specifically?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think that look, the bottom line, I don't think it's destroying art, but it's the opposite. It's oil and vinegar to art.
Wow.
Art is ultimately vulnerable.
Yes.
And it's raw, and it makes fucking mistakes.
Right.
And it's closing your eyes and falling. And so like if you say something, it's racist, sexist, homophobic, and you could be a black guy who's gay, I don't give a shit. Like the bottom line is whatever it is that you feel, you must express, because that's the only way it's going to evolve and be human. If you hide your, because look, every fucking buddy has prejudice of some kind in them. I don't give a fuck who you are. Everyone is sexual. Everyone wants to fuck everything. Everybody wants to fucking, we're all animals, man. We want to bite each other's necks and fuck each other, so like, if we hide this all the time, if we hide all the time, it's anti-art. Art actually is the antidote, in my mind, to this fascist culture that we're heading toward of judgment. And what you're saying is PC. What was the word you used?
PC culture, is that what I said?
Yeah, PC culture. That is basically fascist culture.
Yes, I agree.
So it may be the left. It may be the fucking left.
The fake left.
The fake left. But when everyone's getting offended by everything all the fucking time,
right? How
do you know the difference between when you have somebody saying Al Franken gets kicked out of the Senate, for instance, because he was a comedian and he was with another comedian and he went like this on a shot toward her tits. Yeah. I mean, come on, are you fucking kidding me? And then you have another senator saying, just the idea if a woman feels that she's being sexually assaulted, then it's just as bad as if she was sexually assaulted. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, and the problem is that these are serious issues: racism, sexism, violence against women, against children, against anybody. These are all horrific things. But the only way we deal with them as artists is by vomiting them and by wrestling with them and depicting them. And so I completely, yes, I think, so my answer is, I'm horrified by the PC culture that we live in. It's just it's horrifying, and it's really making people uptight.
Uptight, yeah. I mean, do you see that in your class when you teach? Do you see?
Oh, fuck yeah, fuck yes.
Yeah.
No.
And it didn't happen so much this year, but oh yeah, I see it in NYU and the university, man. I mean, they're the worst.
Right.
You know, they have like classes where you have to understand what are called microaggressions.
Yeah.
And like, to me, it's like, look, you're human or not human. And if you understand that someone's feelings are hurt, then you should try to, you know, look, you're going to get your fucking feelings hurt in the world.
Right.
But the most important thing you can learn to do is stand up for yourself and say, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you. You know, and then you can say fuck you back, and then someone can go, oh, well, I didn't mean to. But when you already decide what, you know, when you already decide what you're going to say because you don't want to offend anybody, then you're not an artist.
Right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And unfortunately, and the beauty of it is that, you know, like the beauty of it is that when you get in the mess of it, and you get in the ugliness and people wrestle with the truth, then it's like Cassavetes. I mean, we always used to have that dinner scene at the Cassavetes table is so uncomfortable when Jenna Rollins goes to the black guy who's singing. And I don't know if you know the scene.
Yeah, Woman on the Influence, right?
And says, you got a beautiful voice. And then she turns to another guy who doesn't sing. Yeah. And it's such a racist, fucked up moment.
Yes.
But it's so, but you love her and you love the other guy, and you realize this is how we grow. This is how we learn how to deal with each other as humans. But when everyone's going, oh, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that, it's like you will never grow. And yet the thing is annoying is that everybody has these feelings.
Yes.
I don't care who you are. You know, if you go to any human being, even the most perfectly politically correct person, and if you get inside their mind, you know they have prejudice.
Right.
You know they have sexual desires that they don't, you know, they don't deal with.
Yeah.
And you know that if they hide these things, it will probably come out in a toxic way.
Sure.
That's my sense.
Yeah.
So I think I think art is the antidote. So that's a long answer to your question.
It's great.
And now you're going to get a lot of people hating you and hating me.
Well, we welcome the notoriety, you know. We're going to get famous, you know.
We want to change the zeitgeist. Let's do it, Alex.
Yeah, because, you know, like the thing is, however, you know, we got to remember, everybody has to remember to be respectful.
Sure.
But when it comes to art, you know, I always say, leave the gentleman and the lady at the door.
Nice.
You know, when you come into my fucking room, I want women to say fuck you to some guy. You know, because women are raised to be polite all the time.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, like, oh, they always say, endure all this shit. Well, you know what? If a fucking guy is making you uncomfortable, say, fuck you, get your hands off me.
Right.
You know, in the world of art, you have to be like this.
Yes.
You can't be passive. You must, you know, you have to, it's not an easy thing to do, but you know, you won't last. You won't last. You won't be able to do it. And there'll be no value in your art. If you're not brave, you know. And by the way, on that note, it is, and I will say, it is a lot easier for men to do than women. That's for sure. You know, we were raised to be combative.
Sure.
We were raised to be, you know, in sports, you know, and all this kind of shit we do. You know, we're always aggressive. We're always, but you know, and I think a lot of women, it's not as easy.
Sure.
But
sure. Yeah.
You know.
Fair play. That was great.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today.
All right, man. Nice talking to you.
We appreciate it.
All right. Let me know what the reaction is. How many people hate us?
We will, yeah.
It's going to go viral, baby.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Have a good night. Peace.
You too.
Good night.
Bye.